Okay, namaste and welcome. This is the introduction to the ultimate yoga anatomy experience, the celebrating the interplay of science and spirit. And I am so excited to be here with my good friend. He's an assistant, he's a teacher, he's also a teacher of mine and a mentor. And this is Randy Boyd. So welcome, Randy. How are you doing?
Ray, I'm really excited to be here with Todd, my teacher, and it's just a beautiful day here in West Virginia. So I'm just so happy to be alive. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so great. This feeling of aliveness, and it's really the aliveness grows when you really understand the anatomy behind what's going on in the body. And because we're both yoga teachers, I'm just really excited. This is my favorite topic of all times to talk about how yoga works and why scientifically the Ashaya method in particular is aligned with kind of that underlying blueprint of what makes the body function in its optimal way. So I wanted to just start with some introductions. So Randy and I are, well, Randy's leading most of it, but I'll be leading a couple classes called the Ultimate Yoga Anatomy Experience Celebration of the Interplay of Spirit and Science. It starts November 18th. It is an 18-hour training, and there's three different times that it's offered, two shorter sessions and then a weekend workshop in February. But it's 18 hours of this amazing style of anatomy that Randy teaches. And the first session starts November 18th. And you can go to ashayayoga.com to register and also to learn more about it. But I'm excited to introduce Randy Boyd, and he is a licensed Ashaya yoga teacher. He's also a certified yoga therapist in IAYT, and he is an anatomy expert. And Randy and I have been working together for many, many years, and we love coming together to really go deep into what makes yoga work and why the Ashaya method in particular is right on target when it comes to science and the research about the anatomy and how the body heals and how it functions with the nervous system. And so, Randy, I just wanted to sort of turn it over to you and hear, well, what are your thoughts about anatomy and yoga, and why is anatomy important in yoga, and what are some of your discoveries that you're excited about?
Well, first of all, I'm really excited about this year's anatomy immersion. Some of you may have done an immersion with me before, but I've got some new material. And for those of you that haven't, I think you're really going to get a lot from this immersion. So the way I approach anatomy is I merge ancient yoga philosophy with modern science. And not just because it's interesting to contemplate, because it really is, but because modern science has really begun to validate many of these ancient yogic practices. And I guess we could say in a way that yogis were like some of the first scientists because they used the scientific principle of observation to discern how these yogic practices affected the mind and the body and the breath. So I'll start out linking the anatomy, the science with the philosophy. And that's kind of like the yoga of the heart. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the bones and the muscles and the joints and all the tissues and how they interact in a way that's easy to understand through slides and lectures and some really cool animations. And that's the yoga of knowledge. And finally, to me, the icing on the cake is Todd and I will lead you through asana so that you experience the anatomy in your body and that you apply the anatomy that you learn so you can tangibly feel how it changes your poses. And that's the yoga of action. So we blend those three things: yoga of the heart, yoga of knowledge, yoga of action. in
And
the
Randy, let me interrupt you here because I've taken every one of his anatomy courses that he's led through the Ashaya training and other places. Randy is amazing. He's an expert in combining the different learning styles. Some of us are more visual, so we need to see it before we understand it. Some of us are more auditory. We've got to hear it over and over again before it even makes any sense. And others are like kinesthetic, where we have to feel it in the body. He addresses with every single session, and each session has its own topic. And it's actually, you can do just one of those a la carte sessions, no problem. But what he does is he addresses all those three learning styles so that anatomy actually becomes really fun. When I first started taking anatomy way back in the day, it was so dry and so boring because it was all textbook. Randy has these interactive slides that move, and then he has great ideas, and he ties it into the tantric philosophy. So there's a lot more meaningfulness of the heart. So yeah, thanks, Randy. Your teaching methodology it really works. So I just want to add that.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. And yeah, and so I was just thinking, you introduced that you mentioned the dates, but I also think won't these recordings be available if they can't make it in person? They can.
Yeah. Every class is going to be recorded. So I didn't mention it's an online training, so you can take it from wherever you are, anywhere in the world. And then the recordings will be available as well. So, yeah. Randy, can I ask you a question, maybe to get sort of a little more gritty, to get more specific around how does the science of anatomy align with the Ashaya Yoga method? Remember, the method is based on 4 essentials, which are open, engage, align, expand. Those are related to the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. And I'd love to hear a description from you as how all this pulls together through the anatomy.
Okay. Well, yes, the science really does align with the Ashaya method. And rather than talk about all 4 essentials, let me just focus on 2. But let me begin with the philosophy. So the life affirming tantric philosophy that informs Ashaya yoga teaches that everything in nature, everything in the universe is in pulsation between these 2 primary energies of expansion and contraction. And for example, the stars pulse. They actually pull in the dark matter of outer space into their nucleus, and there's a thermonuclear reaction, and expanded out is light that's needed for all life. And atoms pulse. Our breath pulses between the expansion on the inhalation and the contraction on the exhalation. The heart throbs in pulsation. So these 2 primary energies of expansion and contraction, they appear to be opposites, but they're actually complementary contrasts. Mm-hmm. And it's the union of these 2 opposites of expansion and contraction where the yoga happens. Mm-hmm. So on a practical level, what does this teaching of pulsation have to do with anatomy and yoga practice? So there's many methods of yoga that focus on flexibility, on expansion only. And Ashaya yoga is one of the few yoga methods that balances engaging the muscles in a healthy contraction and going in, and then going into it, and then expanding, going into a fuller range of motion. And there's a movement that called eccentric contraction that has been studied for decades. There's hundreds of peer-reviewed medical studies about this method of movement. I'll give you just a really simple example. So if I have a barbell here, and I'm doing a forearm curl, and I go up, that's going to contract the muscles. That's a concentric contraction. But if the barbell goes down, the muscles are contracted and they're lengthening at the same time. And the research has shown in lots of peer-reviewed medical articles that this method builds muscle mass better than other strengthening exercises. The research also shows that engaging the muscle and then lengthening the muscle as practicing the Ashaya method also can help build bone density. It increases balance, decreases the falls in the elderly. It's also really healthy for our tendons and ligaments because it's one of the treatments of choice in rehabilitating tendon injuries and ligament injuries. Tendons and ligaments are not meant to be stretched, but a muscle is. And so, but the most fascinating piece of research that I found on eccentric contraction is that eccentric contraction, this is a quote, increases flexibility better than static stretching. Now, static stretching is probably the form of stretching that we all kind of learned when we were kids or in high school. You just relax your muscles and you go out into as full range of motion as you can till you feel some level of discomfort and then just breathe into it. So it's a relaxation of the muscles. Mm-hmm. And so this research about eccentric contraction, it shows that contracting a muscle, then simultaneously lengthening it increases flexibility better than this traditional method of stretching, which is really practiced in most styles of yoga.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that that's really what's different about Ashaya. It's one of the very, very few methods. I mean, you have to think about it. Like mostly we go to yoga to relax. So you want to just stretch out and relax your muscles as you go, which is a way to relax. I think it has a certain amount of efficacy. And if you do contract while you expand, in a certain sense, we learn how to engage our muscles in order to relax. It is paradoxical in a sense, like, oh, I mean, I have to work. Yeah, when you contract your muscles, it takes a little bit of work. The muscle fibers heat up, the joints get completely supported. So there's way less potential for injury in an Ashaya class because of this eccentric contraction that Randy's talking about. So it's like in Ashaya, we come to relax by contracting. It's paradoxical.
And it's one of those spiritual paradoxes, and that's what I love about it. And it really fits the philosophy. And so the other thing is, you mentioned like muscles, they like to work, they like to do their job. And after they've done the work and supported the ligaments and tendons and the joints, when you're in Shavasana, they're like anybody else. They want to relax, and that's when they relax. But how can a contraction of a muscle lead to more flexibility? Why might this be? And I'll just unpack a little bit of this now, but unpack it a lot more in the training. When a muscle is contracted, there's a part of our nervous system that's really we don't have conscious control over. That when a muscle is contracted, this part of our nervous system protects our body from injury, recognizes that the tendons, and the ligaments, and the joints are supported and safe. When this happens, the nervous system allows the body to go into a fuller range of motion. So we'll learn the details about this amazing process in the anatomy immersion. So as you can see, there's a lot of research on how eccentric contraction validates the Ashaya method of we engage and expand. And so when we simultaneously contract and lengthen, or contract the muscle and then lengthen it at the same time in our poses using eccentric contraction, we're getting stronger and more flexible in a very safe way for the joints and the tendons and the ligaments, very safe and healthy way. And we're also, this is what's so cool, we're also tapping into that same pulsation that creates starlight.
It's phenomenal. And that's one of the values of the practice of yoga is we connect back to the source of all that is, where we feel safe, where we feel held by grace. Problems start to fall away, worries melt away. And then we're just like at the end of a really well-led yoga class, we're there merged with the one light, the one source that's in all of us. And just a few seconds or a minute or so in that light is enough to rejuvenate the entire body and the nervous system. And that's really what we're after. And, if you guys come to this, you're going to learn so much knowledge and information about how the body works. But also the teachings that Randy brings in are from the tantric path, which are so uplifting and positively affirming. So it's not so dry. We understand the reason why we're doing this. And then we put it in the body through the Ashaya method. And then we become the embodiment of this vast pulsation that Randy was talking about. Because the ultimate paradox is that we're both human and divine at the same time. It's like, go figure. How do we actually experience that? How do we walk around in that? Because when you understand and have the experience of your vastness like the sky and your solid limitation of just being completely grounded in who you are, your heart bursts open, and that's when you recognize the highest nature of the universe and your true nature, which ultimately is freedom and joy. So, Randy, do you have any other comments you want to say before we close?
One more quick detail.
Okay.
We didn't mention a line, but in this immersion, we're going to learn how we use the muscles to bring our joints, our bones into the joint in a really healthy way. And that's a whole nother piece.
Wonderful. And those four essentials are open, engage, align, and expand. And it's through those Ashaya essentials that we're going to find access to the blueprint of our entire body, mind, heart matrix. It's really a profound training. So again, I want to invite everybody to join us. November 18th is when it starts for the Ultimate Yoga Anatomy Experience, the celebration of the interplay of spirit and science. And so there's an hour and a half experience on Saturday, the November 18th. Then again on like a month later, December 9th or so, there's another hour and a half. And then all that leads to the weekend, which is a 15-hour class workshop. February, I think it's February 23rd or 22nd, it's that third weekend in February. And you can take the whole thing, or you can come to any single session and just pay the a la carte price for it. And like we said, all the sessions, they're online, they're all going to be recorded. So you'll be able to access even if your schedule will not permit you to attend live. And then you can find out more, just go to ashayayoga.com. And Randy, what a joy to just, every time I talk to you about this, something wakes up inside of me. And it's just a very exciting thing to combine and to bring anatomy to the body, to the science in these three segments of the head, heart, and the body. It's wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Right. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you there.